People who believe in zodiac signs. Why? People who don't believe in astrology because I'm a typical Pisces. TLDR because it's fun. I started learning about it as a kid because my mom had some books laying around. Thought it was interesting, the way a personality quiz online might be fun to do. Like, oh yeah, that's totally me. Haha, seeing as I already memorized friends and family's birthdays, I started seeing some patterns and saw the very general traits of the zodiac manifested. Not super clearly, not every time, but enough to keep me interested. As an adult, I've really been digging into it more. The internet certainly helps. It's a great hobby because there is so much material out there to study. Signs, planets, degrees, aspects, elements. It's like laying out a big puzzle, connecting pieces of information and putting them together. It's one of many tools I can use to decipher myself and the world around me. I know it's not scientific, and I'm fine with that. I enjoy it, and it helps me. I don't need to convince anyone, and I certainly don't bother anyone with my astro takes, unless they ask for it. That said, I've become pretty good at pinpointing other people's signs because I always feel stressed and anxious. I need to be tethered to something. As someone who thinks most things like this are BS, it's one of the least harmful things that people follow. I'd rather my neighbors be eccentric astrology nuts than an average Scientologist. I don't really believe in it, but it is fun learning about. You're supposed to use a birth chart, and not just your zodiac sign, which uses the exact time and location of birth to figure out the alignment of stars and shit. You can share qualities with other signs based on where the sun/stars/moon/planets are. So like, I'm a Virgo. I don't share a lot of qualities with your stereotypical Virgo. I'm not a clean freak, and I'm largely disorganized, which is not considered a Virgo trait. But if I bust open my birth chart, look at the shit that represents orderliness, it predicts that I'm a disorganized person. And basically all the qualities that didn't fit me under one general zodiac sign are pretty much tailored to me when I use my birth chart. You can use other zodiacs too in a birth chart to compare. I used my sister's and tried to identify with her supposed qualities, but I couldn't because none of it applied to me. Try to compare other people's zodiacs to each other and see which one fits who better. I can see why people believe in it. It's a spiritual thing. We can track movement of the stars and planets. It's kind of a given that a belief like this would arise. I do wish that I understood its origins though. I wouldn't be surprised if I found out it was pretty much appropriated from other religions/culture. Like how Wiccans did. Because it may lead to sexy time. I know this is going to sink so low that nobody sees it, but if you want a serious answer. Have you ever had a full natal chart done? A lot of people, even people who at a surface level believe in astrology, look at their sun sign, which is just kind of BS, and doesn't really apply to them in the first place. It's a lot like any personality test. And rather than looking at it like a self-limiting box, the real purpose is to see your flaws and grow past them rather than relying on them and saying shit like "Ooh, I'm such a Cancer, and this excuse is X action." I can't say if I believe in it 100%, but for me, following it is not only fun, but it empowers me to become more insightful and aware of how the emotions of myself and others around me are affecting their behaviors. Learning about astrology, I think, has made me a more empathetic person, because I do notice smaller details about my friends, and I can support them more effectively. It's the same thing as, say, the Enneagram, Myers-Briggs types, or love languages. I don't think it's a bad thing to try to understand yourself and your peers better. Adding astrological elements just makes it more fun. Atheist and former evangelical Christian here. I see a lot of people who are moving away from their religion go towards astrology and / or other forms of spirituality. While I may not believe in it, it is harmless, and at the very most annoying. Moving away from religion is difficult, and it can help to have something to cling to in order to express a form of spirituality that may feel lost. Even if that doesn't apply to them, let people connect, or not connect to their spirituality the way they want. It has about the same level of scientific backing as personality tests, and the 5 male personality types, and in the case of the latter, it doesn't spread toxic masculinity. I think a better question would be, why do we shit on people who believe in zodiac signs disproportionately to other harmless, and sometimes harmful, pseudoscience? It's interesting, and it's fun. That's it. NGL though, I'm becoming more interested / open about it just to spite those who have issue with it, which is a large amount of people for some reason. If you're intolerant and rude towards someone for having an interest, you're an asshole. I think off the bat, the top layer of zodiac signs, so sun signs are interesting, but then it's when you go in deeper and explore the sun, moon, and rising signs along with times of birth, and topical and all that other stuff, which really gets interesting. I wasn't really into it at first, but it's actually crazy how similar things are in my deeper readings rather than just sun sign stuff. As a non-religious person that grew up trying to attach my beliefs to a higher form of spiritualism, but cannot believe in deities and religious archives, astrology is the only thing that has consistently matched up to who I am or how I'm feeling at a certain time. I used to be more into astrology, but now I only pay attention when I'm looking for guidance. I still hold out in it, and I don't believe it to be 100% factual, but it's harmless, has offered me advice when I needed it that has correlated to how I'm feeling, and I genuinely find it interesting. And I cannot understand how people can so blindly worship a god, but just laugh off astrology. I find it much more probable that the planetary alignments are affecting me based on their position and pull, rather than a god magically creating all life in the universe. Like, think about that. Why does astrology get such bullshit when we literally believe in imaginary beings that just created life because they were bored? At least the planets exist. At least the universe is there all around us. Also, the moon has lots of effects on the Earth, and our tides, and maybe even our emotions. Maybe other planets do too. I don't believe, but I mean everything is stardust, so they are not crazy for looking at the sky for answers. I was given a multi-page personalized one as a gift. It was made plugging in the time and that / long of my birth. Was pretty spooky, spot on. My cousin was gifted one too, and hers was wildly different from mine, but also very accurate to her. I don't let it drive my life to any extent, but it's interesting, and the generic ones on the internet are fun. It's fun. I never take it seriously, but I think there is something to it. I think it's something related to the need of belong to a larger group with some common, identifiable characteristic. Some people uses sports teams, some other their nationality, and some the zodiac, etc. Simplified answer, because I believe in energy. All things are made of energy. Different planets have different energies. Those energies can influence you depending on where they are in the sky in relation to you. I do, and I don't, for the fact that I talked to an astrologist that explained astrology is like religion and politics. That most people have very strong feelings about it, but in truth, don't know much about what they are talking about. It takes an experienced, qualified reader to understand the nuances and characteristics of each sign. I was surprised to see all the zodiac signs and descriptions nicely included in an old copy of the Companion Bible. I only read the good part of my zodiac sign. Makes me feel good about myself. If people are allowed to believe in a big man in the sky, then people are allowed to believe that heavenly bodies can dictate things too. Because it's fun, and it's harmless seeing a lot of irritable cancers in this thread. I believe there's some merit in it. Not because I believe in destiny, or fate, but because of two major points/possibilities. 1. It seems plausible that people born during the same time of year could develop similar attitudes. Perhaps having a birthday in the winter, when it's cold, and people are dying, makes you more cynical, or more X. 2. It seems plausible that you could measure these subtle things in the environment, and then simply report what you found. Anyone unaware you were making the measurements would think you were a wizard. Think. Card counting. I'm not saying either of these things are true, more like I think it could be true.